Hi, everyone, and welcome to you all. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all. My name is Emmanuel Coppinger, and I'm the Woman in AI, WAI for short, Ambassador for Canada. It's my real honor and privilege to welcome you to the first WaiTALK in Canada, hosted by the city of Toronto, whose theme is Advance Your Career in the World of AI. No matter if you're already working in AI or are simply interested in knowing more, I want you to feel welcome today. Before you get to know our Toronto City lead, Shiyamali Singam, who will present our speakers to you, I'd like to take a moment, don't worry, we'll be short, to say a few words on Women in AI. We're a nonprofit and community-driven initiative whose mission is to increase the representation and participation of women in artificial intelligence. We are already more than 6,000 members coming from 115 countries around the world. Our core values are diversity and inclusion, responsible AI, empowerment and support, equality, care, and compassion. We operate through a network of country ambassadors and city leads, more than 70 around the world, who are responsible to build their team and grow their local communities by managing WAI activities on the ground. These activities organized by WAI include community meetups, a bit less these last times, panels, educational programs, research, publications, as well as communications. If you want to stay updated on our upcoming events, please join our Women in AI Canada LinkedIn page. As the WAI Ambassador for Canada, I would like to thank our Canadian sponsors, Next AI Montreal, operated by HEC École des Dirigeants in Montreal, Alta ML, and University of Alberta in Edmonton for embarking on Women in AI Canada's journey. But enough with introduction words. Let's get to the reason why you're all here today. It's my great honor to let the floor to our Toronto City lead, Shiyamali Singam, who will present our amazing speakers to you. Thanks so much to them for joining us today. Shiyamali, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for the great introduction. Once again, I would like to welcome you all for the first WaiTALK Toronto. My name is Shiyamali, and I'm your moderator for this evening. As you anticipate, and today's topic is on advance your career in the world of artificial intelligence, or known as AI. Some of you might be wondering why there is so much hype about AI. So let's just look back. So artificial intelligence and machine learning may have been the topic of conversation among science fiction enthusiasts 40 years ago, but fast forwarding to now, it's our own reality. So AI has already had a profound impact in more subtle ways. The AI ecosystem is remarkably close to reaching an inflection point as it's exponentially growing, and it is amplifying the impact in all other relevant technologies. So it does seemingly impossible by magically bringing machines to life, whether it's helping us to unlock our smartphones with our faces, or self-driving cars, or virtually even assisting for our retail and educational experience. And now AI is taking care of our romantic matchmaking process as well. Isn't it great? So we have to realize it is fundamentally changing how we run our daily lives and our businesses, government, and so on, many other things. So is our ability to anticipate and prepare for the future skill will be a most critical for our success. So this evening, we will explore what exactly artificial intelligence entails, what careers are currently defining the industries, and how you can set yourself up for success in the AI world. So it's my pleasure for me to introduce our three great speakers today who will be giving a roadmap to three different audiences at different levels in the AI journey. So our first speaker, let me introduce. So she will be walking through how to get a foundation in AI at an early age. So let me give a statistic. So according to the Element AI, there is a serious gender diversity crisis in AI research, with just 12% being a woman researchers, and only 22 of a job in AI are held by women. See, these numbers are decreasing over the last 10 years. So in order to close the gender gap in STEM and to accelerate advance in AI, we must encourage and support young women in all at levels. So our next speaker, Doina Oncel, is a founder and CEO of Her Revolution, an award-winning nonprofit organization assisting young women from diverse backgrounds with access to STEM education and employment opportunities in Canada. Doina was named a trailblazer by Women in IP of Intellectual Property Institute of Canada, and she also recently nominated for Premier Awards by George Brown College. So please join me in welcoming our first speaker. And before I hand it over the platform to her, a small request for our audience, please make sure to ask your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box, and I will take it up end of the session. So Doina, here's your platform.
Thank you so much. Before I start, let me see if I can actually share my screen because I did prepare for this. At least I tried. So here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I guess my presentation name will be The Future of AI is Now. So first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me to be part of this. And I'm the first speaker ever in Canada for the Women in AI. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to be here. I will tell you a little bit more about me. There's a lot of words here, I know, but I can give you an overall history of who I am and why I'm here. So my name is Doina Oncel. So I came to Canada at a very early age of 19. I was super young back then. So I remember as a kid, I wanted to be a teacher or lawyer or just have some sort of a business. But I grew up in communist Romania. So there were so many things in terms of when it comes to being a woman, very limited goals that I could have had. And then coming to Canada, when I came at 19, I waited for quite some time before I even went to get my post-secondary education. And I decided to do that when I had my own daughter. And I thought, if I want her to pursue a career in anything that she loves, I need to set a good example. So I went to college at super late, early age of 30s, in my 30s. Believe it or not, I do not come from a STEM background. Although I was always a curious person, I always broke things apart and put them back together as a kid. So that was something that I loved to do. But I did have a huge passion for women's rights. So I went to study social work with a feminist perspective at George Brown College. When I worked in the social work, I also worked with various groups of people. I worked with youth in conflict with the law. I worked with women that were refugees. I worked with their children. I worked with seniors. I worked with young kids. And I've seen a pattern that there are so many barriers that they're all facing. Somehow, by accident, I got in. There are no accidents, but I guess that was an accident. I got introduced to technology. I taught myself a little bit of coding because I wanted to build a website for the nonprofit I was working at. And I went online to figure out how to do a little bit of HTML and CSS because I needed to change, the colors and the background of, the website. And it was very interesting. And I saw that as such an amazing opportunity. While I was, as I said, I was a very curious person, very curious kid, and I never really stopped. And so my curiosity led me to learn that women in STEM, there's an issue. And the issue is that women are not in STEM. So this is, I would say about 10 years ago is when I learned about, the inequality for women in STEM. I always thought that, someone that comes from a country where I come from in Romania, women would be, stopped from pursuing their dreams. And then when I came to Canada to learn that there's this area where, in science and technology, engineering and mathematics, women are not visible. And so I decided to use my social work expertise for something that allows more women to get into fields that they choose to be into. So this is how Revolution was started. I started the organization in 2013. Um, I've had, this thing. I thought, I'm not really a woman in STEM, so it should be someone in STEM that should be doing something like this, because what do I know about STEM? But then one day I had a conversation with a mentor of mine after I went to a conference where I saw a panel of 4 middle-aged white men talking about how if women wants to get in STEM, nobody's stopping them. It really isn't that hard. So I was frustrated. So I decided, to tell my mentor about this frustration of mine. And I told him how I really wanted to start an organization to bring more women in STEM, especially women that do not have opportunities, because I saw STEM as being the future of um, employment, a future of a lot of women that could have, opportunities, so become self-sustainable. There's nothing more empowering for a woman that, being a career that she chooses to be in, but also making money to be able to support herself. So anyways, as I mentioned, when I told my mentor about this frustration that I have and how, all these people talk about we don't have enough women in STEM, and then this men were making this comments how if women wants to go, nobody's stopping them. And then the studies show that, 10 years ago, there was only anywhere from 24 to 27% of women, no, 17 to 24% of women that were in STEM, which number, less than a quarter, right? So it's very, very low. And so my mentor said, Doina, you shouldn't let the fact that you don't have an actual formal education in STEM to be bringing more women in STEM. You taught yourself how to code. That should be good enough. But also, you do come from a place where you want to bring women, in the world of STEM. I mean, you want to give them opportunities. So you should just go for it. You should just do it. So within like 3 weeks, after thinking about this for a year and a half, within 3 weeks, I decided to create this organization. And 8 years later, here we are. We, helped about 4,000 young women in GTA, which is quite a lot, considering that a lot of the, people were saying that you will never be able to do this. Who are you to do this? And, you're not really cut to do this stuff because you are not an entrepreneur. You're not in tech. You're not in, but I decided to go with my gut. So I pushed through. And that led me to, believe it or not, I can't believe that I actually, we are at an event to talk about women in AI, and it was the MindBridge AI from a company from Ottawa. I've actually awarded Revolution. That was 6 years later. After we incorporated, they awarded us for advancing young Canadian women in technology. That was so, I was so touched by that, because I felt like doing what you love and going for it and choosing not to hear the negative comments from other people could take you anywhere in the world. And this is proof right here. Barbie Canada, which I don't even know, honestly, I never really played with Barbie as a kid, but the fact that, Barbie Canada named me as a career woman for the You Can Be Anything campaign, that's also something that I took it as an honor, because I wanted young women to see that, again, you can be anything. And something that had just happened recently, I was the finalist for the Global Awards 2020 for Women in Tech conference, and the category I was chosen for is Ally of the Year for the Women in Tech. So I'm very excited, to know that I started from a place where I didn't think I was going to make it, but here I am. So I hope that that's going to inspire a lot of young women that are in here today. So, okay, enough about me. Let's talk about Revolution. So yes, we're an award-winning organization. It feels really good to say that. Our main focus is to inspire girls to embrace careers in STEM. We have started in 2013, as I mentioned, 8 years ago. In February 14, the day of love, we will celebrate 8 years since we started this organization, and we have impacted about 4,000 youth to date. So some of the things that we actually do and at Revolution is we have 4 different programs. One is the Go STEM program, and this program has been recognized as the Go STEM Week. You know, it runs in the 3rd week of August. So this has been recognized by the Mayor of Toronto as the Go STEM Week, which I'm very excited about. And this program introduces young women to technology. It's very introductory. It's only about 4 to 5 days where young women get to go inside a company and they get to learn how technology impacts the world and the opportunities that they could have. They learn how to code, and then they build a 1-page website. Because we had that program for about 3 years, young women would come and say, we want more. We actually want to learn more. We want to get into this field, and we feel like this is the beginning. So where do we go from here? Couldn't find anything for them to go to. So we created a program called STEMing Up. So STEMing Up program is, it's a 4 weeks program and introduces young women to computer science and business. This young women, basically, I should mention that the women that come into our programs are in high school age. And so these young women, they get to prepare for post-secondary to get into a computer science or related program, and they get to learn about business or entrepreneurship. Another thing that has happened is a lot of young women came and they said, well, I finished with the program, with the STEMing Up program. Now what? I want to come back. I see that I'm getting a lot of opportunities, and I want young women like me to have the same opportunity. So how can I help? So we created the Ambassador program. The Ambassador program also prepares young women with leadership skills. So they get to pitch to companies and tell them about Revolution and about STEM and about why it's important to support more women in STEM. And then also go into high schools and they talk to girls about, you know, STEM and the opportunities that are available to them. And the one other thing that I'm very passionate about is that we decided to go, and this is our 3rd year we're doing this, is we have a youth committee board. And what that is bringing young women that come from our programs or are in post-secondary or at a very early age in terms of their career in STEM. And they sit on our board and they get to learn how an organization is run. They get to sit on other committees, but also most importantly, by the end of 3rd year, they become board members, voting board members, which means that they're ready to sit on boards at other organizations. The reason why I do this is because honestly, I'm just tired of saying that we don't have enough women on boards. And I think having more women in leadership positions, such as sitting on a board of a company or another nonprofit, another organization, will really change the landscape. And this is a way to bring more women into STEM. So why are we doing this? Pretty easy. I would like to think pretty easy decision is that, you know, we find that in order to break barriers, we need to develop solutions for young women from all backgrounds, you know, particularly girls who don't generally have these opportunities in high school to help them discover and embrace STEM careers. I hope this makes sense to everyone. Enough about Revolution. I wanted to give you a context as to why I'm here and why am I speaking about this. But the reason why you're here to learn is why AI and youth, and how is AI affecting youth today. So honestly, I think AI is the future, and unfortunately, a large number of young women are not actually ready for the future. They're not ready for the work that is that it will look like, what it will look like in 10 years from now. We know that our education system, we have a lot of young women that are going to high school, and we hear a lot of stories, them saying, my school is a STEM-based school, but I feel like there's a lot more young men that go into the schools, and me, I would probably be the only girl in that classroom. So therefore I decided to drop out, and this is why I'm really excited to see a program like what we offer. It's a girls only, where they come and they feel safe to, you know, to learn. which unfortunately that prevents a lot of the young women to actually get into STEM. So that's why I think having access to education is very, very important. And we need to normalize technology fields like technology and AI. We need to normalize that. We need to make it, to bring more examples of women that are in AI, to make it look like this is, if someone like her could do it, then I can do it too. This is why I find that, you know, for us in our programs, for example, the GoSTEM program, we talk a lot about AI, and there's a lot of this fear that a lot of young women come and say, well, AI is taking over our jobs. But is it though? Because 10 years ago, we didn't have a lot of the jobs that are available now. And though, thanks to technology, people get to do, you know, to innovate and get to do so many things with technology, with AI. And I find like coding is that area that actually gets young women in AI. So I feel like when we have that discussion in our programs and we talk with young women about how AI could be, you know, the future for them, it could be a career, they could change that. And in order for that, actually, I feel like for it to be relevant is to make it equitable and inclusive. And what I mean by that is if we get to bring young women that get to be in a room and they feel like, you know, they're very diverse and they feel safe to discuss ideas and they feel that they can explore and innovate. And, you know, just like anything, like that's just for me, I'm talking from a place of revolution in young women, but I mean, that's where it starts. I'm sure that later on there will be a discussion around the workplace, which is the same as like make it more inclusive, you know, where people can discuss the diversity of thought to be, you know, to be included into anything that we create and anything that we innovate. So if we are to make it that, you know, AI, like for young women to understand that, you know, they have a voice, they can be heard and they can introduce that into AI that they're making, into technology that they're building for the future. You know, this is how we can make it equitable and inclusive. And I really think from a lot of the conversation that I'm having with young women in our programs is that young women, I mean, the next generation, they want to have a more equitable and inclusive world. So we are the ones that, you know, responsible for creating that. So that's, I'm hoping that that's what we're doing. And I'm hoping that that's what they see, you know, moving forward. One other thing that I was going to mention is that a lot of, you know, the AI and technology, it's a hard skill that kids get to learn. But if we get to introduce the soft skills, you know, build confidence, get them to see how we can make, you know, it's not just about building a robot, but, you know, we need the people to actually build our robot. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is more that the soft skills that we need will never go away, you know, in order to build the future, the innovate, you know, to make technologies that we need. And so that's why it's, if we build confidence, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If we build confidence, you know, in young women, they get to see that no matter what they build in any industry, but particularly when it comes to technology and AI, you know, they will feel more comfortable to be building it, to be making it, because they are the ones that they're going to create their own future. So how can we encourage, I guess what I was saying earlier, how can we encourage you to embrace AI? I think there's so many programs that focus on technology, and especially when it comes to various coding languages, right? But many of the programs focus on how this technology applies to building apps and websites. I know that we have it even at our programs, you know, build an app or build a website, but how does AI apply here? You know, we need to to answer that question every single time we get to build anything in terms of technology, like even for our programs. And I think that the best way to encourage youth to embrace AI is to make it relatable. So if you discuss how this applies to real world, you know, young women get to visualize why they need to learn that, why they need to learn how to code, and how does that apply to AI. You know, if we make it inclusive and accessible, as I mentioned earlier, especially when it comes to youth facing multiple barriers, you know, the youth will be more inclined to consider AI as a career. A lot of the young women that we talk to, a lot of them think that they want to learn, they want to know more, but they feel it's not for them because they don't see someone that looks like them that actually does it. So see it, be it, right? If you see it, then you can become it, right? So that's why it's important. We also need to remember that by making AI and all technology learning inclusive and accessible, we will have the opportunity to make AI more equitable and applicable to all people. If we want to have AI technology that recognizes inclusiveness, therefore having AI learning accessible to all people is crucial. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I do talk to a lot of young women, and we do have a lot of young women in our programs that never thought possible for them to get into a program like ours. One other big factor when it comes to encouraging youth to embrace AI is to make it fun. It's like, how do we do that? How about I leave that up to your imagination? You know, I would like for you to imagine what would fun look like. Perhaps if you have daughters or nieces or a young woman in your life, maybe ask her, how do we make this fun? What would that look like for you? And that's also being part of making it inclusive, because if you include young women into when you create anything, that's how you know it's built for them. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the things that we have done at VOLUTION when it comes to AI is we discuss how it complements future jobs. And some people have this idea that, you know, as I mentioned, AI will take future jobs from people, but it really doesn't. I mean, if we get to look at where we were 10 years ago and where we are now, we get to see 10 years from now and even 20 years from now, and how what we learn today in terms of coding, how that applies to the future skills and future career. You know, another thing that we do is, and a way to actually make it engaging would be to bring professionals that they get to talk about. So as I mentioned earlier, that, you know, if they see it, they will become it. What we do in our programs is we bring a lot of professionals that get to talk about AI. Now, we do include that a lot in both of our programs, STEMing Up and GoSTEM. Particularly when I can speak of STEMing Up, is we brought someone that talks about AI in the automotive industry. I mean, it's so amazing to see that you talk about AI and a lot of people think robots, and they see the robots that walk, and, you know, but then when you see that AI could apply to a car, right? It's like, wow, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Or we also have professionals that bring AI from e-commerce perspective, right? So they get to see how AI applies to e-commerce. So it's not just about it's not just about making a website. It's not just about robots. It's not just about just coding, just like why we're doing this. It's showing them what they can do with it. It's very relevant. So I probably have spoke too fast, and I'm very excited about this, but I'm going to end with showing you I guess a result from what we've done so far. You know, I can use Sana. Sana, actually, she's been in our program, in the Stamina program, in 2018. She's a great example of what, when you give opportunities to someone and how far they can go. She came on the wait list in our program, and she really didn't think she was going to get in. Once she got in, she was so committed. she really wanted to learn anything to do with technology. After our program, she actually got an employment at RBC and innovation as an innovation developer. Like isn't that amazing? Then she got accepted into computer science program at Carleton University in Ottawa, and now she's working at Shopify, and while she's getting her computer science degree, which is really amazing to see. She's one of these young women that I can see her applying all technology skills that she's learning to anything, and anything is possible. So I'm hoping that answer, but answer whatever you thought I were going to talk about. But at the same time, please do feel free to ask questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer more specific questions that you have. And I think I'm done now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Doina. That was an awesome presentation, and it was really good to see the journey that you went through and your students actually going through. It's eye-opening for a lot of young women coming from an underprivileged background. I know, in your talk that you mentioned about, how there's not a lot of a representation for young women, but I think end of last year, World Economic Forum actually urged more female role models to join accelerated program focused on promoting women in STEM careers. It's international wide, and also they also champion with a lot of biggies like IBM, Microsoft, and U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They came together, kind of like putting together, and they are actually supporting that. That's a really good thing. And one thing to mention before I move on to the next speaker. So keep in mind why we are saying this, because these technology make decision for us and for our lives, and to shape our very new existence. So it is very problematic if you don't include all the representation, like all the people from different background, different color or ethnicity, even like male both. So that's the reason we want to have everybody, so we can build a better product that suits for all human beings. Thank you, Doina. Once again, to our lovely audience, please post your questions in the Q&A box, and we will take it up at the end of the session. Don't be shy, you can ask anything. Make sure to put your question for whom, like that way it's easier for me to ask it. So moving on to our next speaker, we'll discuss important pathways to data science and AI. As you know, the data science and ML field that is constantly evolving, whether it's a skill or language or libraries and tool professionals use every day are constantly changing. It is a field that demands continuous learning. Therefore, whether you are starting out or have been a data scientist for years, it's for you. So our next speaker is Saeid Abolfazli. He's an AI leader, seasoned data scientist, author, scientific editor, and speaker with more than 20 years of experience in IT and data industry. Saeid holds Bachelor of Software Engineering, Master of Information Technology, and PhD in Computer Science. He's currently leading a data science team for Procurement Analytics Center of Excellence at TELUS Canada, and also teaching machine learning, natural language processing, and cloud technology courses at University of Toronto Continuing Studies of Education. So please join me in welcoming Saeid. Now the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Let me share my screen. I hope that goes smooth. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and maybe good morning or good afternoon. I don't know where you are in this world, in this time of pandemic. I hope wherever you are happy, safe, and strong. Thank you, Shiyatu, for having me here. So Doina started to cheer that she's the first speaker, and I'm thinking probably I'm a little bit jealous, but even second speaker for women in Canada is still a good place, and being the first in the first Women AI program and event is itself a first. So here is my topic. I know this is an event for women, but I do teach for both men and women. And when I talk. I remember one time I talked about women AI, women in AI and how to find the work. And someone in my students raised hand and said, "You're talking about women AI, but we are men and we are still struggling to find a job. What is your advice for men?" And I think that's fair to make it both women and men, because to me, so AI really has nothing to differentiate between men and women. So without further ado, let me walk you through what I think. So I'll start with looking at a little bit about myself and why I'm speaking here in this event. I will walk you through two different lenses of AI. So Shia mentioned about artificial intelligence, but I have a little bit of view on that topic I share. Give you a little bit of obvious, probably, strategies on entering into field of AI and how to remain impactful. And I leave you with an interesting study I found on HBR, Harvard Business Review, about men and women and how they decide, which I find relevant in my team. So I do not spend much time here. So this is always best for someone else to introduce you, and this is great introduction Shia has provided. On top of all of those roles in that pandemic kind of things, it is very important to not forget that I have a 4-year-old son, naughty boy, and I'm a proud husband as well. So especially in pandemic, this is important. I'm trying to strike a balance between being an AI leader and a parent and the husband. So I did my education in software engineering and cloud computing, and end up during my PhD, I did a pivot on more focus on data and machine learning. And here I am. So let me walk you through why do I think I have interest to speak about the topic of AI for women. So number one is my wife is a data scientist. So I have a woman in home, so I see how she's contributing. So not surprisingly, she's working in the same company that I do. So she's a data scientist in different business organization, for sure, business unit at TELUS. And she has almost 5 years experience as a data scientist. In my team, I have almost a dozen talented individuals, and half of them are male and half of them are female, except the last hiring was broken that tie. So I have that a good balance. And I teach AI, I apply AI, I lead AI projects. So I see both the academic and industry side of the part. And I personally have a strong feeling that a successful AI team has both men and women. And I bring in a study to prove that that's a valid point. Let me talk to you about AI or AI. So there are two versions of AI. So obviously the first one is what Shia talking about, artificial intelligence. So since 1900, 1950, so human always had the dream of understanding how the brain works and how human learns and how the intelligence evolve to make sure that we can scale human intelligence and go over the limitation of our physical body. And it was until 1950s that researchers started to building the, neural network and start evolving that technology. Perhaps this leg of AI is mainly focusing on mimicking human intelligence using artificial neural network, machine learning, deep learning, image processing, and literally doing what human is good at and scaling it. So the other thing which I think is a superset of that is augmented intelligence. This is again another AI, but in an augmented intelligence, so we are blending science and technology to improve decision making. And it can include artificial intelligence as a tool or technology. So as simple as bringing data to a spreadsheet tool and blend the data, process the data, unveil some insights, and generate some actionable insight that can improve decision-making, I believe that is gonna be AI itself. So we do not necessarily need to build a 10-layer, 15-layer convolutional neural network to become AI. Even as simple as that can be AI, and still it is driving value in terms of um, business impact. So for the rest of my conversation, I try to make them open so that you can put a lens of artificial intelligence versus augmented intelligence. So I leave that on your side. But before I go into the rest, I just want to do a very non-exhaustive, high-level comparison of what I mean by artificial intelligence versus augmented intelligence. So in the interest of time, I don't go through the entire thing. But if you look at this, the technology stack, so in artificial intelligence, we obviously are looking at AI networks and deep learning, convolutional network, recurrent neural network, all those fancy recent developments on neural network. And in augmented intelligence, we are looking more sort of database, where to store it, how to process it, how to present it, how to visualize it, and how to use some sort of predictive model that can look at the past data and generate some actionable insight that can improve the decision-making in future. While artificial intelligence, because of the complexities and because of the aim that has, is used in very specific setting, you literally can apply augmented intelligence to anywhere that is a decision to make. So in Canada, we see a lot of tools evolving even in real estate. So you see there are lots of applications that are taking the historical real estate data and bringing lots of insight that how this rental property or purchasing property compared to the other one, and gives you some insight that can help you make informed decisions. So anywhere that you literally have to make a decision, augmented intelligence can help you make a better decision. And I want to jump a couple of points, go to the education. So that matter of MS in analytics and PhD has been always a question to me. So do we need to have PhD to be entering into the AI world? And I think here's my take. If you want to focus on research and development of artificial intelligence, build super sophisticated use cases like autonomous driving or robotic kind of things. So for sure, you may need more background of mathematics and analytics. Having a PhD in those areas can help you succeed in that role and get into it and survive. But if you don't necessarily have PhD, you don't get stuck there. Even there is a chance you would still be able to go into AI of artificial intelligence without PhD, but having it is a bonus. So on the augmented intelligence side, I believe that MS or PhD is absolutely not a requirement, rather is a nice to have, and it is helping you stay taller in the crowd. So it helps you better improve, right? In the rest of the talk, I would spend a couple of minutes on how to get into AI. I'm sure you may start, if you are a new graduate, so you are, or you're at the end of your course, you start thinking of how do I get into the role? How do I prepare for the role? Or if you are a software developer or a non-AI professional, you may think of moving role. I give you a very obvious of course, steps of how to plan and how to move there. And in the later part, I will talk about how to stay successful and impactful in that, right? I hope I do not go fast. As I said, it's obvious. So the first obvious thing that you need to get into that is the knowledge, right? And that knowledge is not necessarily technical. So it has to be technical, but it also needs to have a business knowledge. So in order for you to understand systems and processes, you need to have knowledge of both how algorithms are working, how deep learning works as a technical piece, but also you need to have an understanding of business side, how certain process works, how certain business unit operates, and so that you can come up with a solution to the problem, to define your problem from the operation of the business and use AI, either it is artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence to solve that. So you need knowledge, but do you need necessarily PhD? I leave it to you to decide whether you want to go on artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence. So you need knowledge of statistics, you need knowledge of a little bit of computer science. So perhaps AI, if you want to focus only on AI, you are building engine, if you put that analogy to the car kind of industry. So using AI, you are building the engine of the car, but still you need body and tire and suspension and interior and seat to be able to drive value. So perhaps software engineering, computer science is going to help you build the rest of that. So you do not necessarily have to have that skill, but if you have it, it is going to help a lot, right? So that's the first thing that I believe is important into entering. The other thing is you need an entry point to get into the AI world. So I often get a question from my students or people who want to join is, you're asking for experience, but how do I gain experience if I don't get into any role? Perhaps you need an entry point. And that entry point does not mean that you have to apply for data scientist or AI scientist role. The common pitfall that I see among applicants is that because data scientist has become sexy job of 2019 and 2020, I see a lot of applicants are somehow getting into focusing on only data science roles. And forget that data scientist is a senior role by nature. So what we are looking for as a data scientist is someone who has at least 3 to 8 years of experience applying machine learning, data science, and AI to business problems. And if you don't have that background and knowledge and experience, you wouldn't really have a high chance of getting into that fresh. It is not impossible. It is possible depending on where you apply and how mature is that team that you're joining. But my advice is there are a lot of more junior roles starting from co-ops and internship. If you are still studying, consider taking a co-op or sort of internship, and then moving into business analyst, junior business analyst, senior business analyst, where you get the foundation of how to map business requirements into a problem definition for data or AI, how to use simple statistical tests to get some insight, how to learn to manipulate data using Excel, using Google Sheet, using Python. So build those skills. And as you build those technical skills or experience those technical skills, you're learning a very valuable amount of information from the business side of the story, right? And then there are big organizations, including IBM. I remember IBM has been advocating for creating 50,000 data science jobs, and it still has a lot of junior data science roles. So they do not necessarily need PhD, and their aim is to bring someone who has the basic understanding of machine learning and data science and help the candidate to grow becoming a data scientist. So I advise you to check all of these roles in terms of entry level rather than just focusing on data science roles, right? That is the entry point, and don't get disappointed. If you don't get acceptance, this is not your fault. So there are multiple other pieces around that hiring that when I submit a job posting, I get hundreds of applications, and I literally have few minutes in my day to look at the applications. So if I do not have the chance to see the candidate, it is not the candidate's fault. So don't feel that, oh, I'm bad, something is wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You need to go into that path, keep applying and stay strong to get the chance. So you only need one person to trust you, and you get into that. I have a data scientist. I have a technical person in my team. He had like more than 15 years of development in banking industry with 6-figure number. But because he was passionate about data science, he moved into data science in a very junior role. And in less than a year, we promoted him to more senior role, and he's like growing in that data science role. He has one more role to become data scientist. So that is promising. Don't worry about it, and you will go there. And I think the last point, obvious again, is expand and leverage your professional network. So you want someone who knows you to put a spotlight on your skills and help you understand what skills do you have. So I was chatting with one of my women data person in my team, and I told him, what is your most proud moment? And she said, I have developed lots of Tableau dashboards. And I said, is this the most proud moment of your life? And he said, yeah, it was great. And I said, no, that is not. You have cultivated, you have transformed the way we are presenting and consuming data and insight. It's not only a matter of Tableau dashboard. So anyone with even basic, even a kid of 15 years can do Tableau. Is not that difficult. That's a matter of how you are building that storytelling skills and consistency, consistently investing time and effort, and adopt that technology to help the organization to get into that journey of, okay, using data, continuously rely on what is available. That is what you have built. It's not only building dashboard. I think you need someone to see the value that you're bringing and benefit from that unique value. So I spent too much time on here. I have only 2 minutes. The last part is like, what trait do you need to be and remain impactful in AI? Of course, you need passion. So remember, data science and AI is a very moving field. So in order for you to get data to analyze and build machine learning, there are thousands of reasons why things are not in the order you want. Either data is not working, the system is broken, the pipe is broken, the system is slow, the system is busy, you are under embargo. There are multiple reasons why things are going out of order. And if you don't love what you do, if you are not passionate about what you do, if you're not motivated enough, it's gonna be sometimes frustrating and also stressful. So you want to avoid getting into this field if the title of the AI is the only topic that you are interested in. That is the sincere advice that I'm giving you. Try to cultivate, try to build that passion, try to, so I think Doina was talking about having that AI as a fun. Try to build that fun experience and fall in love into that field. Not only build technical, but also business skill. Many people come on LinkedIn and reach out to me, can you introduce an AI course to me so I can take? There are too much focus on technical piece. But remember, if you want to be successful, you need to have the understanding of the business as well as technical. So I remember I was building a machine learning, I was up to build a machine learning solution for a call center in my previous role. And in order for me to understand the data center operation, I watched that outsource movie. I put that screen. So that's a story of a call center. Of course, it was comedy, but it gave me a very good understanding of how people are operating in call center. And I could gain some business understanding. And then I could start answering questions that, wow, this is the reason why data is not good. That is the reason why data is bad. This is the reason why we have our data are not showing the actual reality of the business. So you need to grow both, growing technical skills, business skills, and of course, influential skills so that you can identify opportunities, you influence people, and you move on. So Shia, I am 1 minute over time. Do we have a few more minutes or should I close it? Okay.
You have.
And the last one is data curiosity. So that is one of the most important pieces. So you need to be curious and you need to stay curious. Data is always daily, no matter where you work. You work in Google, Amazon, no matter. Wherever you are, data is always by nature big, messy, and desperate. And you want to have that curiosity to start asking questions and use the data to curiously answer that question for you. And I want to leave you with this topic of men and women. In the next slide, I want to show you something. My purpose is not comparing men and women and say who is stronger, who is weaker. Rather, I want to make a point that having both men and women in an AI team is one of the keys to the success. So I wanted to play a game, but we don't have much time on it. So I fill the blank for you. So this is getting from a research paper from Kathy Benko and Bill Pester, both are senior leader at Deloitte. The paper published, the article published in 2013 in HBR called How Women Decide. In that paper, they are referring to a research from California University that says men's brain has 6.5 times more gray matter, and that gray matter is used to process information. They are like a information processing center, so you can process. And what it means is that men are good at processing a lot of data. However, women have 10 times white matters more than men. And what it means is that their white matters are enabling them to process disparate data sources across the board. And therefore, it gives them extra power to process data which are all over the places. And earlier, I told you that data in AI is all over the places. In my organization, we have hundreds of enterprise systems and thousands of databases. They are all disconnected. So that is very important that you look at different data from different points and look at the business, look at the privacy, look at security, and make a call. And that's a funny story. I think we don't have time to go through that. But in that research paper, it continues and compare how men do shopping versus women. And it says women go to buy a one piece and they spend hours and hours in a store and come with hundreds of items because they are able to grasp a lot of information from the shop. But men's go with one really goal. They want to buy a Slack. They go spend 30 minutes, come out. So now how do you want to relate that to AI? I leave it to you. But that is what I think is a strength of having both men and women in the team. So therefore, I see value in having women in my team and any other AI team in the world. That's all. So I'm sorry I go 4 minutes over, but I hope that was useful. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to get to know you and chat. Back to you, Shia.
Thank you, Saeid. That was awesome. And yeah, I think the audience were so into listening to it. And I was at the last few slides were really interesting. Some of the key takeaways yours is that people do come from different background. Like, some of them have traditional education, some of them have non-computer background. So you really, went through like what pathways for them to kind of take. And the good thing to take away is like, obviously you need to have a passion and you need to be curious and more than have, gaining technical skills or you need to have a holistic understanding of how business works and make it fun. If you love something, make it fun and, go forward. Thank you very much for the presentation, Saeid. And then now we are moving to our next speaker. She will be sharing us with what advanced specializations are available for AI practitioners who are already looking to solve a real-world problem. So please join me in welcoming Shiyamali Potter. She is an emerging leader in the field of machine learning. She heads the machine learning team for Meeting Assistant at Facebook, leading the development of conversational AI for remote collaboration easier for work. That is fantastic. So before she worked at Facebook, she was at Carnegie Mellon University, where she developed a social chatbot at the ground up for Amazon Alexa, and currently is used by thousands of Alexa users. So, and outside from her work, she is a great mentor for young aspirants looking to become the next innovator in the field. So please join me in welcoming Shiyamali Potter. The platform is yours.
Thank you so much, Shamli, for this introduction. Quickly, let me see if you can share, you can see my screen.
Yes, of course, yes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for this introduction. Really appreciate it. I am so excited to be here on this platform and share whatever I have to with this group. It's an interesting set of panelists that we have because everybody is from such different backgrounds, and I saw myself processing some of the things that both Doina and Saeid mentioned, and like some of those things I could relate to, and then I had such different perspectives on others. So I'm so excited to take everybody through this journey, and let's get started. So I'm going to be presenting how to build your skills in your day-to-day life, whether you're a software engineer, whether you're a data scientist, or whoever you might be, or whether you're just wondering that I want to get out of the job I'm doing right now and get into this thing called machine learning and AI. So why do we even need this set of panelists to come here? Why can't you just Google it, right? Let's see, can I change my slides? Okay. Why can't you just Google it? So what does Google say if I go in and put in this thing that said how to build my skills in ML and AI? What you see is a lot of noise. Just because this whole topic is so popular, most of the things you see there are ads and a lot of noise that comes in. As opposed to this, if you wanted to Google, how do I become a doctor? There's less ads, there's more pointed information. And then better so, if you wanted to become a zookeeper, Google basically just gives you like this info box about how to become a zookeeper.
Sorry to interrupt, Shivani. We cannot see your slides.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Let's see. Let's try this again.
Do you want to exit and come as a normal mode?
Yes, let me do that.
Okay.
All right, let's try this again.
Sure.
Okay, can you see it now, Shiyamali?
Yes, yeah. I
okay.
Can see it.
So let's go back just a little bit and say when you Google how to build your skills in ML and AI, you see a bunch of noise. So you can see a bunch of ads that come in. As opposed to this, when you say, hey, can I become a doctor? You see like one ad and then really good resources of information. And then cut to this, if you say, I want to become a zookeeper, you see no ads. There's just very pointed information about how to become a zookeeper. So the takeaway is that there is too much noise out there. If you are somebody who's wanting to get into this area without any information, it's really hard to dissect all of this information out there and see how to get started. And so the goal of this presentation today is for me to share how it's just going to take you 7 days to get into the field of AI, acquaint yourself with it, and then also use it in your day-to-day work to power it. Shiyamali, all good? Can you see my slides?
Yes, I see 7 days now. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome. So let's see, what does it take? Let's start with the basics. And I'm going to also cover some of these areas based on what your current role is. So do feel free to ping in the Q&A bot, and Shiyamali, feel free to let me know as some of these things come, but do feel free to ping and let us know what does your current job look like? What does your current role look like? And in what ways do you want to get into AI and ML? And then I'm going to make sure that I go through the presentation with that in mind. Awesome. Let's go to the next slide. So let's start with the basics. Shiyamali, whenever you need to speak, just like put your hand up and I can stop and let you go.
Okay. Would you like to repeat the question to the audience so they get it, they can answer it?
Yes. So the question is that do share what does your current job look like, and in what ways do you want to see how ML and AI can help you? So what I'm looking for is that, hey, I'm a student, I need to know ML and AI, or hey, I'm a designer, I don't know coding and I want to get into ML and AI. Awesome.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Great. So let's start with the basics. What is machine learning? Machine learning has two flavors. There is supervised machine learning and there's unsupervised machine learning. Based on where you're at, based on the data you have available, if you have labels, you go to supervised machine learning. If you don't have labels, you go to unsupervised machine learning. So I want you to think of it as a framework that anytime I have some mundane tasks that I want to automate, can I apply machine learning in it to automate it? So for instance, if I have apples and oranges and my task is that I work in a grocery store and I have to write an algorithm to determine apples from oranges, can I use machine learning? If you have data that labels apples and oranges in images, yes, you can automate your task with machine learning. And so these are the questions you can ask yourself once you familiarize yourself with this thing called machine learning. Next, what does it take to actually get into this area and understand anything about this area? I would say start with 2 blocks. Start with the foundational block. So once you familiarize yourself with what does machine learning mean, go tackle the foundations. Learn some linear algebra that will let you understand what these models are all about. And make sure you know a coding platform. This could be Python, MATLAB, Octave, anything that you might find yourself comfortable with is great, good to go. Awesome.
And Shivani, I have a question from a person. Do you want to take it up right now or you want to do it after?
Let's do it now.
Okay, so I have a question from Shiyamali. Shiyamali is a software engineer with a bit of a background in data analytics and machine learning and wants to enter into field of data science, but lacking sufficient domain knowledge when it comes to different roles.
Awesome, great. So this is exactly it, right? That Shiyamali, for example, is a great example of somebody who has some amount of knowledge, has some foundational degrees that they have. So she's doing data science and has some coding background. But what does it need for Shiyamali here to go to the next level? So that's perfectly timed, because once you do familiarize yourself with this thing called machine learning, once you do have the basics in place, go deep. And by go deep, I mean understand how these supervised algorithms are deployed. Understand what linear regression is, for example, or what does cost functions mean? What does gradient descent mean? These are just terms. But what I mean to say by these is that use these tools to then inform yourself about how you can go deep into the domain of machine learning. I'll talk more about how there's some of these resources out there which you can use to actually walk yourself through each of these areas, so you just don't feel like these are terms that cannot be explored. And when you go deep, you not only learn about these models, but also learn how to apply these models. So that's what I want to come to. So say you familiarize yourself with the foundations, you have familiarized yourself with the various ways these algorithms are built, you feel fairly confident about where you are, and now you just want to apply it in your day-to-day life. How do you build your brand and apply it? Whatever you learn through these theoretical means of ML, make sure to apply it in ways where you can share it on social media platforms, connect with people who are in a similar field and pursuing similar projects, and find mentors who can help validate the stuff you're pursuing. So if you're a data scientist and you are doing a project where you feel like you can leverage a little bit of ML, find somebody who can mentor you to say whether what you're thinking is the right direction of thinking. Shia, any more questions there?
Yes, I have one from Perry Afzali. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. It's a master of a marketing student and looking for data science jobs and want to use ML in future jobs.
Awesome, awesome. That is perfect. And I think one takeaway, if you can take anything away from this, is that anybody with any amount of experience can get into ML. I actually am of the opinion that even roles such as data scientist or software engineering are open to everybody, no matter how your experience might be. This is especially true at bigger companies. And so if you see yourself working as either a data scientist, a software engineer building machine learning products, what you need to focus on is essentially understanding the theory right, building your portfolio of applying that theory, and then sharing it to the right people. So theory, application, and sharing it are the three main keys if you can take anything away from this talk. Great. So let's see how else can you apply what you learn to build an AI. Once you have your theory, once you apply all of this in actual products, the next thing is actually sharing this in places where people can see that you have built the skill set. This could be by reaching out to people on LinkedIn, share your stuff. I have a really good story of the student who reached out to me on LinkedIn. And usually I would get people reaching out to me and saying, hey, can you give me a referral or whatnot? This one guy actually just wanted to share this cool COVID app that he built. And that app would basically do data visualizations and let you know what is the rate of increase of COVID infections in your area. He basically did a very simple thing, pulled out data from publicly available sources, created and assimilated visualizations from it. And the fact that he reached out to me with this skill set that he had and demonstrated to me how he applied it in a very real world application completely changed my perspective. And instead of him asking me for a referral, I reached out to him to say, hey, why don't you come work for us at Facebook? And I'd love to give you a referral, like come interview with us. So it is equally important to apply and share what you're building as it is to have and assimilate the skill set of ML that you're learning. Awesome. So now you've done all of those things. How do you make sure that you set yourself up for success? Like every other thing, keep growing, do not stall, and do not stop. By keep growing, I mean, start taking more advanced courses. I'm going to link some of these in this talk as well, but there's so many open source courses now. Jan LeCun has open sourced his deep learning course. It's available openly on GitHub. Follow papers, follow conferences, see what people are building and how are they applying it. I also saw a question at some point about, hey, how do I know which domain interests me? Reading papers lets you know where people are applying machine learning. For example, are they applying machine learning to recommend music? People make paintings now. People also do style transfer. So put my facial expressions onto somebody else, and that's a completely acceptable way of applying machine learning. And so tracking what is new in the field will also help you learn what excites you about the field, whether you're more excited to train social bots, train Alexa systems, whether you're more excited to do computer vision, whether you like doing augmented reality, virtual reality. So all of that will only come once you know what's out there and once you see your internal compass going to one of those things out there. The ML community is also very active on social media. And so I would highly recommend you to do what you're doing. Attending this webinar is one of those many things you can do, but also reach out to this community, reach out to me, reach out to anybody who you feel will help you out a little bit, and feel free, be bold and ask questions. And then lastly, seek projects that let you do some ML in your area. So speak up and seek opportunities and create opportunities. Don't wait for opportunities to be created for you. Yeah, and then I just want to end with the saying that you got this, and we are here. A lot of the ML community is here to help you. If you have any questions or want any guidance, I'm linking both my LinkedIn, my Instagram, and any social media platforms. Feel free to reach out to me or shoot me any questions. Shiyamali, anything else through the talk that came up that we might have missed?
There's one more from Shantoshini. She's a master's student working in computer vision. And awesome. I think the other part is cut off. So probably she was like, I don't know, maybe what to choose. Or so I'm not too sure exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think this context of being a master's student in computer vision is great, because then what ML means to people in computer vision is very different. Today, we have Teslas, we have Ubers, we have people creating self-driving cars. And I would say try to follow people who are in these fields and pursuing applications of computer vision in real life scenarios. We also have all of the big companies doing things like object detection, to even for detecting things that come up in images, in videos, and helping local authorities maybe do something with the things they detect, and whatnot. So there's so many ethical applications of AI as well. I think being in a master's program, you're already set up for success. Make sure you don't break the momentum you have going on with this course of education you've embarked on.
I think that's what we have so far. Thank you, Shivani. I think it was a really great, presentation that you went through for someone who's already has a little bit of a confusion of where to dive into and where to start. I think you went through really good, and thank you for that. And now it's our Q&A session, and we have some interesting questions in the Q&A box, and I'm going to pick a few one. I see Saeid have answered some of the questions already, but let me see what questions there. So there is a question called, could you guide if a non-IT computer science person wants to get into AI, what should be the starting point? So I think Saeid would like to answer that question.
Sure. Well, I think if you look at the holistic view in the industry, of course, I think like any other project in AI world, there are two more elements before putting the solution in place and after. So before that, you need the skill sets of project management, look at the business, identify the opportunities where AI and machine learning can help. Do some planning, time management, kind of funding and alignment with the stakeholder, those kind of opportunities, and then bring it, translate it to the data science and AI team. And then the more important piece is, I don't have any statistic to share, but I'm sure almost 50 to 60% of machine learning solution never being used because of the difficulty in adoption. So probably I'm anticipating in future, we have some AI strategies, AI adoption strategies kind of roles, or machine learning adoption expert, some kind of these roles come in where you take a problem, you build a solution, and then you go and adopt it. Because data scientists are focusing on technical pieces. And then if you don't really monetize it, if you do not put it into production, if you do not persuade people to use it, it is going to be a failure. There's no really point of investing in that solution. If I have time, I can give you a real example of how that works out. Do I have, Shia? Yeah. So someone came to me and said, I'm working for a reseller company. And in our reseller company, so the frontline agents are those who are driving the profit, because it was a B2B, business to business organization. And he was like, our frontline sales team are talking to the potential buyers, and then using their personal relationship, they are offering certain product, and they do sales transaction, and of course drive revenue and profit. And what he had done is he went into the data and see if there is any sort of recommendation recommendation model he can build that can help the sales agent to recommend the right product at the right time to the right customer. Now, they build it, it has a value, but how easy would it be that you go to someone with 20 years of experience of sales and say, sorry, moving forward, do not use your brain, do not use your experience, use my machine learning model to tell you what you have to sell. How easy would that be to sell? Obviously, it is not an easy thing, even though if it has business value, but the sales agent would not really use your resource if they feel threatened, or if they feel that their value is underutilized because of the machine learning solution. And if you look at every sort of solution and problem, you will see that adoption, like for thousands of valid reasons, you have difficulty in adopting. And I think project management and adoption strategies would be very great areas for someone non-technical to add value to AI.
Okay, thank you, Saeid, for that. And I have a question for Shivani. AI field also relies on our traditional roles such as software engineering to develop programs on which these AI tools function. So how does that help you in your current role? I know that given that you have a background in software engineering background, right? So how does what is your take on it? Like, do you think it's good to have skill if you already have other skills, including ML skill and sort of things like that?
Yeah, I am of the firm belief that to apply ML effectively, you need some software engineering background. And by software engineering, I just mean some coding background. So definitely, if you are venturing into ML and AI in a technical capacity, and I think Saeid made a great point that you can also become a PM, a product manager, or a non-technical person who helps with ML or AI. But if you want to be somebody who actually goes and builds this stuff, having software engineering background, you can just teach yourself how to learn to code like Doina did, would be a great way to boost what you have to offer. And definitely a great way to boost your career as well, because you'll be a better ML engineer that way.
That's great, thank you. I have a question for Doina as well. So Doina, you mainly work with youth come from underprivileged background within Toronto. Like, what are their thoughts like on, stepping into STEM career? Like, are they showing a great interest, or on your part, are you guys like doing a great encouragement? I do see that from your presentation you're doing. So in the future, what are your plans on that? Like, what is the outlook on that?
Well, personally, I think the only way to get more girls in STEM is for them to see themselves in it. So this is something that we work on a lot. And I love having even webinars like this to have women speaking, because a lot of young women get to see that, wow, somebody, I could be that one day. But yes, we do a lot more of that, and that's something that is very important. And another thing that is very important that we do is work with companies, because our model is we do not have a program where young women go into a room and get to learn. We go inside a company. So with the more companies we get to partner with, and it's something that I encourage more companies to come to us. Yes, I'm promoting myself right now, but it's not for me, it's for the girls, is that for them to have the opportunity to go and learn from the people that get to do this day in and day out. It's a better learning experience. And for us, what we've seen so far, it's long-term impact, meaning that when we started with the 4-day program, it went to a 4-week program, and now we have young women that come and they become ambassadors and they actually sit on board. So that goes to show why we need to have that connection with women, but also companies, so that young women get to see what their future could look like.
Thank you very much, Donia. So that's about it. I just want to ask a fun question. So how do you guys are preparing to end your 2020 and looking forward to 2021? So you can say, like, maybe Shivani, you can start, what is your plans to end this year and start a new year?
I actually have a very fun set of plans, which maybe people in this group will be interested in. I'm trying to get women who I've been inspired by throughout my career to come together and create a podcast that we will then share with hopefully women who are interested in tech next year. So I have a bunch of podcast recordings lined up for this year, and I'm super excited to talk to them and then share everything I've been inspired by with the next generation of women in AI.
That's awesome. So we'll do post it on your LinkedIn so we get to know when you're doing it. Thank you. So what about you, Saeid?
Well, 2020 has been a very crazy year for me and my team, and we are trying to resist and avoid signing up for extra activities, and we are in the unwinding mode. but I think I have an opportunity to develop a new course for how to create a chatbot using Python. I think I may end up closing my year by creating a new course on how to create chatbot.
That's awesome. So anybody's listening here, I took his summer course, ML course. That's very awesome. He's a very, very strict, a teacher. He makes sure that we actually learn. So it's really good. So if you really want to learn, please take his courses. He's also very fun and very stimulating environment. You actually learn. So that's awesome, Saeed. How about you, Donia?
For me, for the end of the year, I want to spend more time with my kids. I know we've been locked down and we spend so much time with each other, but what I discovered is that I get to actually, I feel like I'm getting to know my kids once again. And then for 2021, is my work is a lot of fun. I know it sounds crazy, but honestly, I love my job and I see it as being a lot of fun. So my goal for 2021, I want to have programs expanding across Ontario, and we will continue to do stuff virtual, which is I feel like I've done a lot of learning in 2020. And I'm going to do a lot better in 2021. So that's why I just said we're just going to go across Ontario.
Awesome, awesome, great then. Congratulations and all the very best for you, Donia. So now we have, yes. So now we have come to the end of this event. It was a great pleasure and amount of work, engaging with all of you and to listen to your conversation as well. And we learned a great amount of information as well. I'm sure all our audience also learned lots from our speaker. And my sincere thanks to all our panelists for your time and sharing valuable information with us. Also, I would like to thank Emmanuel Coppinger for opening the WaiTALK and Princey Clement, our WAI leads, for all the great support in making this event fly. So, but last but not least, huge thanks to our engaging audience and members for spending your evening with us and for your continuous support. And thanks for posting your question as well. I believe that all of them will get answered. So hope you had an interesting time and you can enjoy the rewatch on our YouTube channel. So this is it, guys. So I wish you all the happiness and also happy festive holidays and maybe Merry Christmas. Stay safe and stay healthy. Keep in touch by subscribing to our LinkedIn page for future updates and see you in the new year. Goodbye and good night. Thank you all.